Okay then, in the spirit of integrating ideas, the assumption on this video is that you have good control, good awareness, a good skill at playing, in this case, a G major scale. Bring my volume up a bit. Back down. And all this is ironed out or presented to you in the accompanying PDF. You also, as usual, if you know my teaching style, want to be able to do that exact same thing up and down a string. It doesn't matter which one you use, just find an accessible G note to get it started on. We could do this on the first string. We could go and back down. And of course, as you're doing that, although it'll become a pattern that you'll see and understand, you do want to convince yourself that what you're doing is playing a G, an A, a B, a C, a D, an E, an F sharp, and a G. No different in the actual position playing of it. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. Or here, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And there are many ways to play that scale. That's true for any scale. I've just chosen this very common, I guess it's a caged version of the scale. If you don't know what caged is, don't worry. We'll talk maybe about it a little later in the series. Okay, so you need to be comfortable with that. You should also be comfortable with the fingering of it to make sure that that stays consistent. And again, that's in the PDF. The fingering for that pattern is 2-4 on the 4th string, 5th fret, 7th fret, 2-4. I'm naming out fingers now. 2-4, 1-2-4 on the 3rd string, 4th fret, 5th, 7th fret. Come out of position from 4th position into 5th position. This is being identified by where the first finger plays. Let me do that again for you. So I'm starting with the 2nd finger, so by definition I'm in 4th position. It's where my first finger would play if it were playing right now. So 2-4, now it's playing. 1-2-4, I'm now in 4th position, 4th fret of the guitar. Then I go to 5th position with my index finger, 3rd finger on 7, pinky on 8. Or G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. It's much easier to say. And when you get past the hurdle of continuing sort of to learn your notes, it's easier to think of instead of just a visual pattern which doesn't inform you of any other connection that's going on. It's just a pattern in and of itself. You can add a pattern to it and another pattern to that, and they all connect, but you don't know in what sense they connect. You just know that they do because someone said to do that. And this is not what we want in this series. We want you to understand where everything you do in your playing is connected in some form or another to something you're already good at. Integration is the key. So you need to be good at that. Practice that as much as you can. I'm using a technique in the picking hand called alternate picking. I'm moving through this very strictly using alternate picking, going down, up, down, up. Check it out. Down, up, 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 down. Of course, in real playing, there'll be moments when you're not strictly alternating, and, excuse me, and you're making these decisions kind of in the moment, which is important. Okay, so now what we want to do is take that scale in all its current configurations that you're comfortable with along one string, or within the fourth position pattern going across the strings. And we want to apply some knowledge of the scale to a backing track. In your PDF, there's a chord progression that's been listed out. And what we're going to do is pay attention to where the roots of each of those chords would be located in your scale pattern. Because the game here now will be, as this backing track plays, your job is not just to randomly move around and hit notes that you're unaware of. You could, of course, do that, and just maybe you're good at it by ear, but knowledge of the notes plus a good ear, you're golden. If it's only ear and no knowledge of the notes, still at some level there's a disconnect between concepts. And in this case, locating, excuse me, the roots of the chords from the chord progression, I'm looking at the progression here in my chart, and consciously applying them through the scale. So, for example, you should see the chord progression somewhere here on the screen. When the first chord plays, a G major chord, you have options. You could play this G, or you could play the last G that you played in the scale. You could play either one, and that lasts for 2 measures, as you can see. The 2 measures is long enough, I hope, to give your mind time to think about the upcoming chord, which is E minor. Now you've got to hunt for the root of the E minor chord, which is an E note. So you can do this one. Within that particular scale shape, that's the only accessible E that you have. In the long run, do you have to use just that E? Of course not. You can eventually expand beyond that scale shape and find any E you want to work with. But for now, let's keep it within the scale shape, because remember what we're trying to do here is get really good at this, get good at thinking this way as a guitarist, removing yourself from the old paradigm of strings and frets and fingers and things. That's what I call it. These are notes, and everything in music stems from notes. They're names assigned to sounds, and we should get good at it. So we move through this chord progression with knowledge of, hopefully, where the roots of each of those chords is located. And we're going to ring out the note for 2 measures. So I'm going to go and cue this up, and we'll give this a shot, and I'll demonstrate how this works. G, E. Back to a G. I'm going to go to this one now. A. B. E. C. You've got to envision it, anticipate it. Where is it in the scale? There's D. You do the whole thing again. Moving to E. Back to G. I'm going back to this one, why not? A. B. E. C. D. And so that chord progression repeats itself 4 times. So you get a lot of opportunities to keep testing how you're thinking about finding those notes. You are looking for the root notes of each of the chords. It's a game of getting your brain used to hunting for something specific in a short period of time. And you get better at it just by doing it. I mean, there's no magic here. It may be completely new to you, which I expect, but you do get better at it. You develop a comfort with it. Then you know that your skill at that has now risen, and you can move on to a slightly more challenging version of the same thing, which we're going to do next. So this one, I don't need to have the chord progression to do this with you. I'm just going to use the chord chart as we see it. I'm just going to bring my chord chart a little closer to me. So the second exercise gets a little more detailed because we want to create melody around that scale. And it's a simple melody to get started with, but you mustn't avoid trying it because it will challenge your brain. The more you do this and the more we add complexity to the melody, you will be free of having to think about what I'm asking you to think about, but you will always be aware of it when you're playing. You don't have to be thinking on it as you're playing eventually. For now you do, right now you do, because that's the exercise. And the more complex the melody becomes, you can't be always thinking of each and every note, but you are aware of those notes as they fitter by in your brain, kind of idea. So this exercise is, I should remind you though, when you played the roots of the chord, in terms of the timing, right, you heard you can perceive the pulse. The count-in that you heard at the beginning of the progression is essentially the pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, G, etc., etc. Those root notes were landing on beat 1 of a particular measure, and the note when you hit it played for that measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 for 2 measures, which had 4 beats in each one. And then the next chord came, the newer chord came into play, and you played it on beat 1. It's very wise of you to have an awareness of that as you're playing. It is a simple rhythm, obviously, but to be thinking about those root notes being played on beat 1 at a particular measure, I can't overestimate or what's the term? Just do it a lot. You have to be aware of it. Again, this is the stuff that a lot of players are missing out on. They're wondering what's the magic bullet to be able to play so well. This is the stuff that those players are thinking about and they're aware of, and they have practiced. So the second exercise draws upon that same awareness of the beats as displayed in the count-in. But this time you're going to play on beat 4 of a particular measure. Again, this is all identified in your PDF. You're going to play on beat 4 of a particular measure the note that is the next note higher in pitch than the root note. And then on beat 1 of the upcoming measure, you resolve it back to the root note. Let me give you a taste of what that sounds like. So if I just count myself in and I have the chord progression in front of me, you're going to do this to the backing track. You'll hear a count in, 1, 2, click, 1, 2, 3, 4. Nobody's counting out loud. You hear the click, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and start the whole thing again. Might sound simple to you when I do it. I'm going to describe what I did in a sec. But you'd be amazed how much brain energy that actually takes. Until, and this is the key point, your ear actually takes over eventually. You get an anticipation of where that sound is going to be on your fretboard ahead of the root note. And at best, I guess you could call it an instinct that develops, a musical instinct. Some people get it quicker than others. It doesn't matter. Everybody can learn to do it. Some may have to work on it more or longer than others. That's true for anything, right? So what I did there is I'm seeing that G chord in my chart, and I'm hearing the count in. Click, click, click. On the fourth click, my brain has to say, some email coming through. What is the next highest pitch in the scale after the G note gets played? Which is the root of the chord, right? So if I play through the scale, what is the next highest pitch after the G? It's this guy, which is an A. G, A. I want to play that A on beat 4 of that count-in. On beat 4, I play A, and then beat 1 of the next measure is the root note that I'm aiming for. So I see the root note in the chart, but I have to imagine the pitch that is higher, the next highest pitch, than the root note I'm looking at. I have to be able to say it. It would feel something like this in your brain as you're doing it. 1, 2, 3, A, G. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. F sharp, E. F sharp is the next highest pitch above the root E, which is the next chord that came up. Is this making sense? I hope it is, because it's an important character of being able to make up melody. Eventually, like everything else, I know I say it a lot, you develop an ear or an instinct for it because of the experience you've had manipulating these notes. But at the beginning, a lot of students just don't, what do I play? What do I play after this? And I don't know what to do with the scale. This is trying to help you understand how you can coordinate your playing with the scale. It's getting you to think about the roots of the chords, which I know you've probably never really thought about as you play. You're just thinking about chords, right? Happily playing along. You're not wrong, but there's another layer you need to be thinking about. The first layer is to be able to play the roots. Second layer, for now, as I'm suggesting, is to be able to play the next highest pitch above the root and then resolve back to the root. So let's try this just as a walkthrough. Excuse my voice today. If you look at your chart, you see that we're on the page here, on the video, you see that there are 2 G chords, one for each measure. The A, which is the note above G in the scale, G, A, I hope you're getting that idea. That's the note you're going to play first on beat 4 of the count-in. And then you play the G on beat 1 of that first measure, and just let the note ring for the 2 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. At the end of that second measure of G, it's easier to play it than it is to talk about it, interestingly enough. On that second measure of G, beat 4, then you're going to play or think, what's the next highest pitch before the upcoming E chord or E minor chord before I play the E note. What's the next highest pitch? Well, here's your E note in the scale. Right? Next highest pitch before it finishes the scale is that note, which is F sharp, before you go to G. So you've got to think about that F sharp on beat 4 of the second measure of G. It's so confusing to say it, but let me play it, and if you have your chord chart in front of you, or if you're just the progression in front of you, sorry, or you're just looking at the chords above here, check it out. 1, 2, 3, A, G, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, thinking now, F sharp, E, 2, 3, 4, 1, what's ahead of that? G, A, G, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. What comes now? I'm looking at A minor. What is the pitch above the note A in the scale? It's a B note. You got to play the B note on beat 4 of the previous G measure. B, A, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. C to B, 2, 3, 4. Here comes another E. What is it? F sharp to E. 2, 3, 4. Here comes another C. What are we playing? D to C. 2, 3, 4. And then a D is coming up. What are you going to play? E, D. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And then you start the whole thing again, if that makes sense. Let's give it a try with the backing track so you get a better sense of it. Too much talk. Comes A. What's before A is B. C to B. F sharp to E. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. D, C. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 2. It's hard to count, think of it at the same time, and I do the whole thing again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, A, G, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, B, A, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, C, B, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, F sharp, E, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, D to C. I'm looking at D, E comes higher. That's where I want it to be, excuse me. And then we go. Now that's a challenge, let me tell you. But it's a good challenge. It's something I know you haven't worked on before, generally speaking. And we're going to expand on this idea in the next number of sessions, where the melodies are going to get a little more complex. And we're going to be moving around that scale more rhythmically as we get more and more comfortable with both the scale shape, the note location, and the sounds that we're piecing together to create melody. The goal of this process is to be able to say to yourself, okay, if I know that I'm in the key of G and I'm about to improvise something, there's another email, improvise something with a group, then my experience in moving around the scale has allowed me to do something like this, for example. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. Right? That's our goal. And what are we integrating? Because that's the center point of the series. What we're starting to integrate is your knowledge of the major scale, both along one string and across strings in a position. A beginning sense of making the pulse that you perceive from the backing track to be able to play the roots of each chord on beat 1 consciously of that pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, root, 2, 3, 4, root, 2, 3, 4. And that's exercise 1. In exercise 2, you did it a little more elaborately. We came in on beat 4 of a previous measure and resolved to the root in the next measure. So it's more like this. 1, 2, 3, G, or sorry, 1, 2, 3, A, G, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, F sharp, E, and the F sharp is coming in on beat 4. Again, it's harder to talk about this than it is to actually sit down and do it. And I have some little examples drafted up in the instructions part of the PDF for you. Bonus points, you know me with my virtual Tootsie Rolls. If you can do the exact same exercises, playing the backing track, playing the notes of the scale along one string. So if you do this along the one string, moving along these notes, that'd be a great test of your ability to play this thing out. Just like this. 1, 2, 3, A, G, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, F sharp, E, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, A, G, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, B, A, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, C, B, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, F sharp, E, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, D, C, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, E, D, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you do the same, just locating the root notes along that one string. And if you're really motivated, you would do the exact same exercise on each and every string. I mean, it's a lot of work, isn't it? You do this kind of stuff, if you choose to go that far with it, if you do it, you are going to understand how your fretboard works. These are the kinds of exercises that help you and your brain, one and the same, understand this stuff. It's hard at first, but that's okay. Why should everything be easy and quick? You know that's not how I roll on this channel. I'm asking you to think things through, be intelligent about it, explore these ideas, and then put them together at a more intuitive level when we sit down and jam with people. That's the ultimate goal. So there you go. That's the Guitarist Toolbox, lesson number 1. And if you were blown away by that one because it's a challenge for you, you may want to go back to the earlier series that we did, Where Stuff Comes From, and maybe review some of that so that this stuff isn't quite as tricky. And you may have to do that anyway, just to bring everything up to speed. But for the most part, as I go through this series, I'm assuming to some extent you have gone through the Where Stuff Comes From series. And if you haven't, there's a link to a playlist of all those videos. You can study them first and get access to the PDFs that they're involved with. And do that first before you do this. Or just jump in and try this out for size and see how it works for you. Anyway, there you go. Lesson number 1. We're integrating roots, awareness of roots, a little bit of simple melody, and some rhythm. Awareness of these 3 things going on all at once from one scale, the major scale, which, as you know by now, could be applied to any scale we cover. But we're starting with the major scale, as usual. I hope that's been helpful for you. If you like the video, if you like the lesson, you know the routine. Give us a share, give us a like, and click the little bell in the box that the YouTube video sits in to get notifications of upcoming videos on this series. I'm new at saying this stuff, so it's going to take me a while to get it natural. But you get the idea. Everybody does it on YouTube, so I got to start doing it too. Okay, guys, thanks so much. We're back in the throw of things. Steve Dempster, Dempster Guitar Studio. We will see you on the next session. Take care. Bye-bye.